What is going on, guys? Welcome back to the BLS podcast, aka the Biggest Little Sportscast. I'm your host, Kenny Moss, rapper and recording artist out of Reno, Nevada. Go check out my latest mixtape, Las Sombras, which dropped not too long ago. If you don't want to hear the raps, if you just want instrumentals to study to, we also dropped an instrumental version with an alternate cover. Go check out that version if you want some lo-fi hip-hop to study to. But enough about that. Enough talking music. We're not here to talk music. This is Biggest Little Sportscast. We're here to talk sports. Okay, so I'm super stoked to get into the topics that we have today. We just finished up championship weekend in the NFL. The NFC and AFC championships were both incredible, both great games to watch. Both games did not go at all how I expected them to. I did get one of my predictions correctly. I picked the 49ers to make it out of the NFC. I picked the Ravens to make it out of the AFC. I was wrong about the Ravens, but yeah, man, I'm super stoked to get into these games and talk about Championship Sunday because it was a doozy, man. It was a great weekend for football. So let's go ahead and get into it here. So we'll start with as soon as I can pull up the information I need here, we'll start with the first game from that Championship Sunday, which was Kansas City heading into Baltimore to take on the Baltimore Ravens. And man, this game did not go how I expected it to. I actually ended up taking the over in this game, which was the wrong choice. This was a defensive clinic for both teams. I was extremely impressed with Baltimore's defense. Baltimore's defense did exactly what they needed to for the Ravens to come out with this one, and the offense just didn't pull their weight. They end up losing by a touchdown, which Zay Flowers was crying after the game because if you watch the game, you know there was a big swing in this game where Baltimore was driving and they were in the end zone. Zay was in the end zone. He was reaching for the end zone, and receivers and ball carriers in general just clearly have not learned their lesson. Don't reach for the end zone, man, because if you fumble it in the end zone, that is a touchback, almost guaranteed. If it goes out the back, and this isn't a scenario where the ball went out of the back of the end zone. This is a scenario where it was actually recovered in the end zone by the defense. But regardless, man, if that ball bounces out the back of the end zone or you have a bunch of guys around you trying to make the tackle, they're there to scoop it up, you turn. It's a 7-point swing, man. You turn a touchdown, an almost guaranteed touchdown, into a turnover. And Zay Flowers was crying after the game because he knows they lost by 7, and he knows that play he left 7 points on the board, and that's tough to deal with, man. I feel for him. That's a tough reality to come to terms with, but he's young and this team is young and they have their cornerstones of the future as far as this franchise goes. It doesn't seem like Harbaugh is going anywhere. I think this Ravens team is going to be a problem for years to come. I think Zay Flowers is going to get a chance at redemption, but man, that was a tough play for sure. And it's going to go unnoticed, but I think Zay had a really good game for the most part outside of that play. He scored the only touchdown for Baltimore on what was a super sick play where Lamar kept it alive, kept his eyes downfield, and when Zay broke away, just hit him for a bomb of a touchdown. That was super sick. That when that happened, I was like, okay, this game might end up being a shootout. It wasn't. It was the complete opposite. But that Zay's pretty solid game is going to go unnoticed. He ended up finishing with 5 receptions, 115 yards, and a touchdown. That's a really good day for any receiver, but it flies under the radar because of that crucial mistake. And he had another mistake where he got called for taunting for like shoving down the defender and then standing over him and saying something. So just small errors, rookie errors for Zay Flowers, and it sucks because he had a otherwise great game. He was otherwise extremely important in Baltimore staying in it. That's tough, man. That's tough to deal with. That's tough to deal with for sure. As far as rushing, Baltimore didn't run the ball a whole lot. Granted, they were behind, and they weren't playing catch up. They weren't behind by a bunch, but they were behind for pretty much the entirety of the game. And so they opted to put the ball in Lamar's hands and have him make the decisions, which is never a bad move. But man, that interception on that drive was tough. That was tough, man. I really wanted to see Lamar like at least take this thing into overtime and have a great drive to end the game and everything. And you know, when you look at the numbers, Pat was much better from a completion percentage standpoint. And obviously Pat didn't have any picks, but you know, Lamar kept pace as far as yards, and he had his own touchdown as well, and he actually caught his own pass as well, which is the first time I've ever seen that. I don't think I've ever seen a quarterback catch their own pass. And I can't imagine if you weren't watching the game and you just saw Lamar Jackson 13-yard pass over the middle to Lamar Jackson, you're probably like, wait, what the fuck? This man is Superman, which he is Superman. But, yeah, I can't imagine how confusing that must have been if you weren't watching the game and were just getting updates. But, man, it sucks, man. It sucks because the Lamar haters are going to run rampant with this one. Like, they're going to be like, oh, the only game he could win was against the rookie quarterback in the young Houston Texans, and as soon as he gets tested with Mahomes, he lays an egg. And I mean, they kind of did, man. Like I said, Baltimore's defense was incredible in this game. They did everything they needed to do to give the Ravens a chance to win, and the offense just didn't come through for them. And that sucks, man. On Kansas City's side of things, you know, we talked about Mahomes. He was really good. He had a passer rating of 100.5. He was 30 for 39, 241 yards, a touchdown, no picks. Isaiah Pacheco was great in this game for Kansas City. 68 yards and a touchdown and just some really big conversions. And Pat Mahomes, before I pass on from him, he had some monster third down conversions as well, including the one to MVS to ice the game. And Travis Kelce, man, targeted 11 times, caught all 11, 116 yards and a touchdown. He had himself a game, and he was getting scrappy with Patrick Queen for a lot of the game. The whole team, both teams were getting scrappy. It was a fun game to watch, man. It was real. If you love defense, if you love defensive football, this was the game for you, man. Like, these defenses were going at it, and it wasn't like they were playing, you know, lackluster offenses. These defenses both put on a clinic against great offenses. So it was super impressive. It was super cool to watch, and it was a great contrast to what we were going to get in the NFC Championship, which I'll actually go ahead and move on to that now real quick. I actually picked Baltimore to cover the spread in this game. They didn't win and they didn't cover the spread. So I was 0 for 2 on my predictions for this game. And then we get to the NFC Championship. Now, I was 0 for 2 on my predictions for the NFC Championship as well. No, that's not true. I was 1 of 1 for my predictions on the NFC Championship. I predicted San Francisco to go ahead and get this dub, and they did. And I predicted them to cover the spread of -7, which they did not because of a late score from Detroit. But man, this game was so cool. And this was actually a game where I found myself with a rare opportunity. So even though I didn't think the Lions were going to win this game, their odds were plus 270 prior to the game. I ended up taking that. So I had money on Lions plus 270. Lions jump out to like a 21 to something lead. I can't remember exactly what it was, but they jump out to a big lead, and the Niners ended up receiving a plus 320 money line live. So I took that. So I put myself in a rare scenario where no matter who won, I was going to make money. And that was cool. It's always cool as a sports bettor when you get a chance to do that, when you know you take the underdog prior to the game at pretty big odds, and then they go up and you're able to get the favorite at pretty big odds, and then there you go. No matter who wins, you're making money. That's a dream scenario for a sports bettor. So that was a really cool thing that actually happened while I was watching this game, and I was able to watch the rest of the game in peace and just enjoy it, knowing that I was going to make money no matter who won. And I actually ended up making more money because the Niners won, because they had higher odds when I ended up taking them. So worked out completely perfect. This game, enough of me making money off this game. Let's talk about the actual game itself. So this game was so sick, man. Detroit jumping out to that lead was so unexpected, and then San Francisco to come roaring back like they did. I was watching this game with my friend Marco, who's a Lions fan, and It was fun, man. I do wish the Lions would have pulled it out for everybody in Detroit and for all the Lions fans out there. But, man, if you were going to ask them, you can't ask anything more than the fight that they put up, man. Like, this San Francisco 49ers team is an absolute powerhouse. They are damn near flawless as a roster. You can't stop them on defense, and your defense can't stop them on offense. So what that didn't even make sense. You can't score on them. You can't score on their defense, and you can't stop their offense. That's that's what I meant to say. But either way, man, my point being, San Francisco is perfect on both sides of the ball, damn near. Like, they are an incredible football team. Brock Purdy in this game, he did have one interception, but other than that was 20 for 31, 267 yards, and a tutty. Jared Goff was pretty solid in this game as well. Not as good completion percentage-wise as Brock, was 25 for 41, but did have 273 yards and a touchdown as well. No picks for Goff. David Montgomery finished with 93 yards and a touchdown in this game. Christian McCaffrey was freaking huge, 90 yards and a touchdown. Sam Laporta was great in this game, 97 yards. Amon-Ra St. Brown was great in this game, 87 yards for him. The San Francisco receivers, Brandon Ayuk ended up having a touchdown and 68 yards in his performance. Deebo Samuel ends up having 89 yards. Christian McCaffrey also got 42 in the pass game. Kyle Juszczyk even got involved in the pass game. He had a really nice sideline, like, toe-dragging catch during this one. Yeah, man, this was a fucking shootout of a game, and I loved every second of it. It was like I said, it was a really cool contrast to the last game. Last game was a defensive clinic, and this game was really just an offensive showcase from both sides. And what a way for San Francisco to come storming back. And San Francisco is proving a lot of people wrong. I know a lot of people were saying that the Niners, you know, if you put them in a scenario where, you know, it's a close game and they got to pull it out, or if you put them in a scenario where they're down, they're not going to be able to come back because the Niners are front runners. They get up on you early and they stay up they stay up. And they're proving people wrong with this playoff run. Green Bay in the previous week, they go on a game-winning drive. They're losing heading into that game-winning drive. They go on the game-winning drive and win the game. This one, they're down 3 touchdowns at halftime, and they come roaring back and win convincingly. I know the score is only a 3-point game, but that was a late Detroit score that, you know, really almost felt like it was kind of coming too late. Like, it was too late for Detroit at that point. But for them to come roaring back and win convincingly against a very good Detroit Lions team, yeah, man, I think San Francisco is proving that close games, comebacks, whatever, they can win in a multitude of ways, man. It doesn't just have to be get up on you and run it up. And they can do that too, but they proved these past 2 playoff games that it doesn't have to be like that for them to win. And that goes a long way, man. I think these 2 playoff games probably do a ton for San Francisco's confidence going into this Super Bowl because they feel like they can win in any circumstance. And speaking of the Super Bowl, man, we're there, we're here. It's Super Bowl time. I mean, we're 2 weeks away because, you know, we got the Pro Bowl and everything in between, but we're pretty much here, man. For the next 2 weeks, everybody's going to be talking Super Bowl. Everybody's excited for the Super Bowl. The San Francisco 49ers opened at I believe it was -1. They've moved up to -2.5 now, so they're actually the favorites. You would think Vegas would stop making Patrick Mahomes the underdog, but they won't stop. They keep making him the underdog, keep giving him another chip on his shoulder, keep giving him another reason to wreak havoc on the entire NFL. I'm sick of it. I'm sick of it, bro. Like, Patrick Mahomes should not be the underdog anymore. Granted, that being said, I'm picking San Francisco in this Super Bowl. Now, do I actually think San Francisco is going to win? No. If I'm being 100% real with you, if I'm putting money down on this game, I'm putting my money on Kansas City for 2 reasons. One, they're plus odds, so, you know, when teams are this evenly matched, it's basically a 50-50 who's going to win. I'm taking the plus odds team every time. But the other reason I would put money on Kansas City is because I think Kansas City is going to win this game. Now, why am I picking San Francisco in this video if I think Kansas City is going to win this game? Because I think San Francisco can win, and I am rooting with everything in my body for San Francisco to win this game because I do not want the Chiefs to get another Super Bowl. As a Patriots fan, I now understand how every non-Patriots fan felt during the Patriots dynasty, during the Patriots Super Bowls. I get it now, and I'm with it. I need the Chiefs to get taken down. I want to see someone else win the Super Bowl. This is their 4th time in the Super Bowl in the last 5 seasons. I wanted Baltimore there, man. I wanted Baltimore. And, I feel like it was supposed to be Baltimore. And then I feel like the fix was in because of the Taylor and Kelsey thing. And I don't know if any of this is true. I'm just bullshitting. I'm just on an impassioned rant right now. But the Kelsey and Taylor thing just feels like it's flipped the script, if there is a script, and now we've got Kansas City back in the Super Bowl. And man, I wanted something new, man. I wanted something new, and Baltimore and San Francisco would be 2 powerhouses going at it. But nonetheless, this is the matchup we're getting. Go San Francisco. I'm picking San Francisco, man. This is a really interesting matchup. 2 really good defenses. Kansas City showcased last week what their defense is capable of, and we, of course, know how stacked the San Francisco defense is. Patrick Mahomes is Patrick Mahomes. I expect him to do what he does, but if he has another game like last week where Kansas City isn't able to get over the 20-point mark, I think San Francisco is going to come out with this one. If San Francisco can put on a clinic like Baltimore's defense did and hold Kansas City to under 20 points, they will win this game. But yeah, man, I think that's what's going to have to happen. I think the 49ers defense is going to have to do exactly what Baltimore's defense did, but it's just going to have to be a different story on the other side of the ball this time. San Francisco's offense cannot lay a goose egg. I mean, they didn't lay a goose egg, but they can't shit the bed like Baltimore did last week. The offense has to come through, and I believe that if San Francisco's offense comes through and San Francisco's defense plays the way they're supposed to, that they can and will win this Super Bowl. Do I feel super confident in that? I don't know, man, because every single day that passes, I get more and more confident that the Chiefs are just going to take it again. And if it is rigged, why would you not want Travis and Taylor kissing under the confetti? Like, isn't that what you would want for TV? Like, isn't that, if it is rigged, isn't that exactly what they'd be looking for? So, I don't know, man. I'm every day I'm less and less confident that Kansas City is going to lose. Patrick Mahomes is probably going to get his 3rd Super Bowl by 28. Which is just ridiculous. I wanted Lamar to get his 1st this year, but man, that sucks. I'm so salty the Ravens are not in this Super Bowl, man. But nonetheless, it should be fun, regardless of the outcome, even if Kansas City comes out on top. I hope it's just a really good game, and I hope that we don't end up in a scenario where it feels like the refs impacted too much. I hope it just feels like the better team, whichever one it is, I hope it just feels like the better team won. There wasn't no funny business going on. I just want to see great football. I just want to see a great Super Bowl, and I hope we get it, man. And I think we will. This is a super intriguing matchup, and there's a little bit of bad blood there because of the last time these 2 teams met in the Super Bowl. San Francisco had a convincing lead, and Kansas City came storming back and got it done. So, there's some bad blood there. That's still in the mind of guys like George Kittle, and Deebo Samuel, and these guys who were on that team and had to feel that sting of losing that Super Bowl. It's fresh in their minds still, and they're gonna look for a different story this time. Side note: if I'm Patrick Mahomes and I look up and see Nick Bosa and Chase Young on either side of those as the 2 edge rushers, oh man, that is a scary sight. That is a scary sight. But yeah, man, I guess I have one more NFL topic before we get up out of here on NFL. So Jim Harbaugh joining the Chargers as the new head coach. So I'm a big fan of this move for LA. I think one of the biggest reasons why LA has just had lackluster season after lackluster season, despite having a stacked roster, if we're being real, like just a really, really great roster, they've just been super lackluster. And a big reason for that, I think, is the coaching. How do you fix that? You just get the guy that won the Natty. Like, go pick up the head coach who just led Michigan to a championship. And not only did he lead Michigan to the championship, but he's a head coach who's been in the NFL before and had great success in the NFL before. Actually took the Niners to a Super Bowl. So if you wanted somebody to fix your coaching problem, there's almost nobody better than Jim Harbaugh. So it is. I'm sure Michigan fans, are sad to see him leave Michigan, but you got to be excited for him to have the opportunity to go win a Super Bowl and possibly be somebody who has a national championship and a Super Bowl. That would be absolutely crazy. And you would think that because of how much of a Michigan man he is, that if he does pull off a Super Bowl in the NFL, I wouldn't be surprised if he just took his ass right back to Michigan. I would not be surprised at all. So, yeah, man, I'm a big fan of this move for LA. I'm a big fan of this move for Harbaugh. I mean, I would have been on board with him staying in Michigan too, because him and Michigan it's right together. It's how it should be. But I'm also on board with him going to the NFL and trying to pull off this Super Bowl. I'm on board with guys trying to pull off incredible feats, and a national championship and a Super Bowl would be an incredible feat as a head coach. So, the Chargers should be much better next year. The Chargers fans, rejoice. You guys should be way better next year. You guys should be what you've been expecting to be next year. What you've been expecting to be all these past few seasons, that is actually going to be who this team is next season, I believe, under this new head coach. And we'll see, man. We'll see. So that's going to do it for NFL topics. We're actually going to get into NBA now. And the first thing for NBA is I want to react to the All-Star selection, and I want to react to just snubs. If there was anybody that I think should have gotten in that didn't get in, if there was somebody who's a reserve that I think should have been a starter, I just kind of want to react to the NBA All-Star team. So I thought that they revealed the entire All-Star rosters. I was wrong. They just put out the starters. So we can still talk about who I think should be the reserves, because the reserves actually have not been voted on yet. Those are voted on by the coaches and everything. But we can get into the starters and see if I agree or disagree with anything. We'll start out in the East. The captain of the East was Giannis Antetokounmpo. No surprise there. He is also one of the front court players. The other two front court players joining him in the Eastern starting five is Joel Embiid. No arguments there. He's probably the MVP as long as he makes the game requirements. Jason Tatum. No arguments from me there. Tyrese Halliburton. No arguments from me there. And Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard as a second starting guard is a little bit interesting to me. And this is where I actually am going to say that I disagree with who they picked. And not that Dame shouldn't be an all-star. I do think Dame should be an all-star, but Jalen Brunson is actually who I would go with at that second guard spot. He has just been an absolute dog for New York. I don't think anybody, including myself, expected him to be this good. Is Jalen Brunson better than Damian Lillard? I wouldn't say that, but who do I think has had kind of a better season and who is, more important and crucial to their team, which I think is kind of what All-Star is supposed to be about? I would have to go with Brunson. I mean, Brunson's averaging more points. They're averaging about the same assist-wise. We can get in. You can at that point it's just meticulous. Take your pick, and my pick is going to be Brunson. So I would swap out Dame for Brunson in the starting five in the East, but that's just me personally. Hopping over to the West, we got LeBron James as the captain of the West. Again, no surprise there. He's one of the forward spots. The two people joining them in the front court are Kevin Durant, which I have no arguments there, and Nikola Jokic, which, again, have no arguments there. And then the two backcourt guys joining them are Luka Doncic and Shai Gilgeous-Alexander. I think this is it. I think this is what it should be. I think they nailed it as far as the Western starters go. So now we can get into the reserves, and the reserves, there is 7 reserves on each side. I said that I think Jalen Brunson should have been a starter, so that right there should tell you he is my first pick for the reserves. I think Jalen Brunson should be one of the guard reserves in the East. The other guard in the East should come as no surprise. I would take Tyrese Maxey. Tyrese Maxey's been incredible. If you asked me earlier in the season, I would have had Tyrese Maxey as the other starting guard for the East, but I think given the way I've seen things play out this year, I think I would go Jalen Brunson. But none of that is important because neither of them are starting. They're both going to end up being reserves, and they're my two picks for the guard spots to be the reserves. The big man off the bench for the East, I'm going to take Bam Adebayo. Bam Adebayo is incredible defensively, and they can run their offense through him. He's not a playmaker to the level of Jokic by any means, but as far as a playmaking big man goes, Bam Adebayo is one of the best in the league for sure. Another All-Star reserve I'm going to be going with here is Jaylen Brown, because the Celtics need at least 2 All-Stars. No doubt about that. Celtics need at least 2 All-Stars. Another player I'm going with in these reserves is going to be Donovan Mitchell of the Cavs. So Darius Garland has been out for a lot of this year, and Donovan Mitchell doing Donovan Mitchell things, and currently has Cleveland sitting in the 5th seed despite Darius Garland being out all season. And despite the rough start that they had to the year, they've climbed back and gotten into those top 6 playoff spots. So give me Donovan Mitchell as my 4th reserve. I now have... as my 5th reserve, I now have only 2 reserve spots open. And there's some names that I'm thinking about. So I'll just say the names I'm thinking about are Trae Young, Julius Randle, Derek White, and Paolo Banchero. So those are the names that I'm thinking about for my final 2 spots. And one of them I'm going to give to Paolo. So that'll be my 6th. That'll be my 6th All-Star reserve is Paolo Banchero. Paolo is he's so good, man. He is so good. His mid-range game is incredible. He's big and bodies people, but still has the handles and skills of a perimeter player. Paolo Banchero is extremely good for his age, and I think he gets his first All-Star appearance this season. Now, the 7th spot, the biased Celtics fan in me wants to give it to Derek White. But looking at numbers, I mean, it's hard to give it to Derek White over Trae Young and Julius Randle. I think, so the Bucks have 2 All-Stars, the Celtics have 2 All-Stars, the Sixers have 2 All-Stars. The Knicks would be the only top 4 seed without 2 All-Stars. And so for that reason, I'm going to give my final spot to Julius Randle. And Julius Randle's been hooping his ass off. So my reserves, my pick for the 7 reserves for the East would be Jalen Brunson, Tyrese Maxey, Jaylen Brown, Bam Adebayo, Donovan Mitchell, Julius Randle, and Paolo Banchero. That is my picks for the All-Star reserves. We'll see how it actually goes. I wouldn't be surprised to see Trae Young get in there. I think the reason I snubbed Trae Young is just because of record-wise. But Trae Young, the numbers he's averaging, if you put him in there over Julius Randle or even over Paolo, I'm not necessarily mad at you. But yeah. So that is going to be my reserves for the East. We can get into picking reserves for the West now. And so I agreed completely with the starting lineup in the West. I have no gripes about that. So this is just straight up picking my 7 reserves. Now, the 2 obvious ones to me for the backcourt are Steph Curry and Anthony Edwards. Anthony Edwards has to be there. The Timberwolves are the 1 seed in the West. He has to be there. Steph Curry is Stephen Curry. He has to be there. Just like LeBron, Steph Curry has to be there. And then there is where it kind of gets a little shaky as far as who we would put in. So, man, it's tough for me. I think I would go with Kawhi as my 3rd reserve, and I think I would go with AD as my 4th reserve. It's weird because the top 4 teams in the East are represented with two All-Stars each. But it's not the case out West. Out West, the top 3 teams only have 1 All-Star, and you could even make a case that the Clippers only have 1 All-Star as well if you don't want to put Paul George in there. It's tough between Paul George and D-Book and De'Aaron Fox. I'm going to have to look at some numbers, man. I'm going to have to look at some numbers here. I'm considering Paul George. For sure, I'm considering De'Aaron Fox. For sure, I'm considering Domantas Sabonis. For sure, I'm considering Devin Booker. And for sure, I am considering... Actually, that's it. Those are the 4 I'm considering. I only have 3 spots remaining. Those are the 4 I'm considering. So somebody's getting snubbed. Somebody of those 3 is going to end up getting snubbed. And I mean, Karl Anthony Towns is another player that I might be thinking about as well, but I don't think I would put him above any of those other 4 guys I mentioned. So right here, the odd man out kind of seems to be Sabonis for me, because if I'm going Kings, I'm taking De'Aaron over Sabonis. So we can go ahead and lock De'Aaron in as that 5th guy. So I've got 2 spots remaining. I'm going to go ahead and put De'Aaron Fox in as that 5th guy. He's averaging 27 points, about 6 assists. De'Aaron Fox is incredible. So yeah, De'Aaron Fox is my 5th man. I've got the 6th and 7th reserve spot left there. And if we look at the numbers here, Domantas Sabonis' numbers are, he's averaging 20 points, 13 boards, and about 8 assists. And Paul George for the Clippers is averaging 23 points, 5 boards, 3 assists. Paul George has had a really good season. Devin Booker, if we look at him, let me pick between D-Book and Paul George right now. So Devin Booker is averaging 28, 5, and 6. I got to give it to D-Book over Paul George. I got to give it to Sabonis over Paul George as well. Paul George is only averaging 3 more points, and Sabonis is way more impactful on the boards and playmaking-wise for Sacramento. That's my selection. Those are my 7 all-star reserves. Is going to be Anthony Davis, or what am I talking about? It's going to be Anthony Edwards, Steph Curry, Kawhi Leonard, Anthony Davis, De'Aaron Fox, Domantas Sabonis, and Devin Booker. Those are my 7 guys that I am going with. Yeah, that's tough. It's crazy that the Kings get 2 all. Yeah, those are the 7 I'm going with. Based off of numbers and based off of importance to their team, I think those are the 7 that I'm going with out west. That was tough, man. That was tough. It was tough to pick those. It was tough to pick those all-star reserves. I'm not even going to lie. We got a ton of talent in this league right now. Let's get into these last few NBA topics that I have here. So another NBA topic I have is the Bucks firing Adrian Griffin and hiring Doc Rivers. Adrian Griffin, I guess, lost the locker room, and you could kind of tell from the jump of this season that Adrian Griffin probably wasn't going to be the guy. I don't know, man. Just it seemed to me from the jump that, he wasn't a bad coach by any means, but just they were going to end up finding somebody else, if not before the end of this season, then after this season, is how it felt to me. So I am a little bit surprised that it came when it did. But they replaced him with Doc Rivers, who is a storied coach, a successful coach, obviously won a championship back in 2008 with the Celtics. But Doc Rivers also has a reputation of not making adjustments mid-series, and he has blown a lot of playoff leads because of it. So it's interesting. We'll see how it goes. If they end up matching up with Boston, that's a series where you're going to probably have to make adjustments game to game. And so we'll see what happens. We'll see how this signing of Doc Rivers affects how that series might end up going and everything. I will say, though, I definitely think Doc Rivers gives you more of what you're looking for and gives you a much better chance at accomplishing your goal than Adrian Griffin did. So I think this is a good move for Milwaukee. I think this is a move that was the right one to make. And as far as the head coaches that were out there on the market, Doc Rivers is one of the best names and one of the most credible names that they could have picked up. So I think Milwaukee made a good move here. I also want to talk about Miami trading for Terry Rozier, giving up Kyle Lowry and a first. Kyle Lowry in Charlotte just seems wrong, but it's a reality now. And Rozier in Miami just seems right. He definitely feels like a guy that fits there. They needed somebody who was a little bit better scorer and was a really good ball handler. Now, Kyle Lowry was a ball handler, but he's just not the same playmaker or scorer that he once was. And Terry Rozier is still a really solid scorer and can still play make as well. Terry Rozier and Tyler Hero in the backcourt together is a little bit weird to me. I don't know if they're going to start both of them or if maybe Rozier or Hero is going to end up coming off the bench. I think they would probably have Rozier come off the bench in that case, but who knows? Maybe they look at their front court and say, well, we have Jimmy and Bam in the front court. We trust them defensively enough to throw out Terry Rozier and Tyler Hero as our backcourt. Maybe that's the way they feel. Maybe that's what they do. I don't know, but I'm interested to see how this is going to work out. because Miami is always a team that you don't want to see in the playoffs, because even if they're not going to beat you, they are going to give you hell of a series. So them getting another scorer in Rozier, it's not Dame like they were supposed to get before the year, but it is a good addition at this point in the season for them. All right. And so I guess what we can do is get into the highlighted games that I had for last week. So I had highlighted the Clippers and Lakers on TNT, which, wasn't what I was hoping for. The reason I highlighted that game was because it's the Battle of LA, and it's LeBron versus Kawhi and everything, and LeBron versus PG, and LeBron ended up not even playing in that game. So that was certainly a little disappointing when that happened, and the Clippers end up beating the Lakers pretty convincingly as a result of LeBron not playing in this game. And who knows, maybe it would have gone similarly had LeBron did play, but that is why I highlighted the game, and LeBron ended up not playing. So that was a bit of a bummer. And then the other game that I highlighted was the Suns and Mavs. So the way that game went, so that game, unlike the Lakers and Clippers game, didn't face a scenario where the star players were out. All the star players played. Luka played. Kyrie didn't play, but Luka played. Devin Booker, Kevin Durant, Bradley Beal, they all played. And the Phoenix Suns swept the floor with Dallas, which adds a little bit more to this rivalry now, because Dallas usually is the one getting the best of Phoenix, and Phoenix getting their revenge right there. The other game that I had highlighted was, let me just actually slide this over instead. That's way easier. So the other game that I had highlighted here was the Celtics and Miami on January 25th. How did that game go? Boston ends up winning by 33 against Miami. They swept the floor with them. That was no contest. So far, these games that I picked as highlights did not go how I was hoping they would go. The Clippers and the Celtics on League Pass. Another one that didn't go as I hoped they would go. The Clippers completely destroyed Boston. And Boston, the final score was only 19 points, but Boston was down by 30 at one point in this game. It was not close. Again, another game that I highlighted that did not go how I thought it was going to go. Philly and Denver. Another game I highlighted that didn't go how I thought it was going to go. Embiid didn't even play. I highlighted this game because it was the top two MVP candidates going at it, and Embiid didn't even play. And Michael Malone had something to say about it in his post-game. He said, I don't understand how you could be active till 15 minutes right before the game, and then all of a sudden you're not playing. Whether I agree with that statement or not, I'm not gonna say, but I do find it interesting that Michael Malone called that out. I do find that interesting. But yeah, that was another one that was somewhat of a disappointment, because the whole reason I highlighted that game was Embiid and Jokic, and Embiid doesn't play. The final two games I had highlighted were LA at Golden State. That was a great game. Ends up going to double overtime. LA pulls out a 1-point victory. It was super close. That was the only highlight I picked. That actually was a really great game, and it was two teams that are towards the bottom of the standings. So shout out to them for coming through. Shout out to Lakers and Golden State for coming through with a really, really good game there. And then the last game that I had highlighted for last week was Milwaukee at Denver. And Milwaukee, I actually put money on Milwaukee in this game, and they did not come through for you, boy. But Denver ends up winning this one. It was a close game, a really, really great game. But Denver ends up just pulling this one out. Giannis had a huge game, 29 points, 12 rebounds, 4 assists. Dame was all right. He was solid, had about 18 points. Jokic and Murray did their thing. Murray finished with 35 points, 5 assists. Jokic finishing with 25 points, 16 boards, and 12 assists. Jokic is just a monster. He doesn't even make sense anymore. But yeah, man, so that's going to do it for the highlights from last week and how those games went. I gave you guys 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 highlights, 7 highlighted games of the week to watch. and I would say only a few of them were really worth watching. So I'm sorry about that, guys. Hopefully the ones that I give you this time around end up being better games. I have less games this time around. I only have 4 highlighted games for this next upcoming week. But the highlighted NBA games that I have for this upcoming slate, this upcoming week, are Wednesday, January 31st, Denver at OKC. You'll have to catch that one on League Pass. But it's just 2 of the top powerhouses in the West, 2 of the top MVP candidates, and going at it. And it should be fun, should be a great game, hopefully. And then Thursday, February 1st, we've got the Los Angeles Lakers going to Boston to take on the Celtics on TNT, so you can catch that on national TV. And it's Lakers-Celtics rivalry, man. Like, doesn't get any better than that. Hopefully LeBron plays in that game. Hopefully everybody plays in that game, and we get a good old-fashioned Lakers-Celtics battle it out, and have a fun one. I mean, Lakers or Celtics stole Christmas from LA on Christmas Day, and so LA hoping to get their revenge and take one in Boston now. So it should be a fun game. Saturday, February 3rd, we got Milwaukee going to Dallas. I highlighted this game because Giannis Antetokounmpo and Luka Doncic, two of the best players in the league, going at it. That is the main reason why I highlighted this game. And then the final game that I had highlighted for this upcoming week of NBA was Monday, February 5th. We have Dallas visiting Philadelphia to take on the Sixers. Again, just a scenario of 2 of the best players facing off against one another. Luka Doncic, Joel Embiid. Should be a great game. So less games highlighted for this upcoming NBA slate, but hopefully we get a better I guess a better record of which ones actually are highlight games, which ones are actually worth watching. I hope I picked a good 4. I hope they are good games to watch. I loved doing this episode this week. I am super excited for the Super Bowl. Let me know who you guys think is going to win the Super Bowl below. Let me know, what do you guys think about the All-Star starters and who you guys think should be the NBA All-Star reserves. Let me know what you think about Doc Rivers going to Milwaukee, all that stuff, man. Let me know everything in the description down below. I'll do some plugs real quick. Again, Las Sombras, normal version and instrumental version. Both out now. Go check those out. Also check out Michael Kenneth Smith, the album that I put out earlier last year. Also be sure to check out, if you like hearing me talk about music, well, you've never heard me talk about music, presumably, but if you want to hear me talk about music, if you're a music fan, head on over to the K Reviews podcast with Kenny Moss on YouTube. Link for that will also be in the description below. We talk music, we rank discographies, I interview local artists in my city about albums that came out. We just did a makings of Las Sombras, so you can check that over there. I have a couple interviews with some local Reno artists who just recently put out projects. We're going to be talking about their releases on there as well. But yeah, album reviews, discography ranking, artist interviews, all that stuff is over there. Go peep K Reviews podcast. And I think that's it. I think that's all I have for plugs today, man. Shout out Biggest Little Sportscast. Shout out the Niners and Chiefs for getting to the Super Bowl and hopefully giving us a great game. I'm excited for it. My name is Kenny Moss, and I'll catch you guys next time. Peace.